My friends, thanks for tuning in. I'm doing my best to share uh, thinking and food for thought in general, but I think right now multi-cloud is a big topic and the new AI services and whatever is provided in terms of cloud new services will fall into this category. So I thought it was right to reframe a bit the topic to avoid the general confusion when somebody need to take a decision about a multi-cloud strategy. For some technical people, the focus can be only on some of the footprint instead of the overall. So let's start first of all explaining that these slides are all published on SlideShare. You'll find the link in the YouTube video description. You'll have various episodes to be sure that you can focus on the topic you are interested in. So check the various episodes with the topic description, but let's kick off right now the topic on what is a multi-cloud. So if you go through all description of all organization, you'll find a clear pattern on avoiding the lock-in, enhance redundancy, but is enhancing redundancy meaning move the workload across CSP or not? And that is a big topic. Is about only PaaS or is about also infrastructure as a service? Is a zone redundancy enough to talk about redundancy? And leverage the unique strength is something of a cloud service provider is something that everybody wants, but how can you move across cloud service provider maintaining the same type and level and standard? And this one is really important because it has to be in line with the regulatory requirement, mitigate the risk, and be 100% sure that it's really the direction we want to go. To make this conversation a bit easier, I streamlined 3 case studies where you have the typical market answer or proposal of the requirement that you can find in various RFP, in various conversation with CTO, CFO, and CISO. But in company A, you'll have in summary a company that experienced a bit of everything. You feel like to respect the independence of each department to pick the best tool for the job. Their focus is not really on moving workloads right to left or left to right, but it's to allow that creativity across. But at the same time, they are conscious that they are losing the real grip on what is happening in those cloud service providers. Company B is more an example of a company that did a journey that was already focused on moving to cloud, but think on the short term and long term. Moved everything in a short term and a lift and shift, understanding that anyway refactoring application was taking time, and now trying to reduce that infrastructure as a service footprint to move to something way more standardized. And that means being cloud first and focus on the specific of a Kubernetes containerization design, and try to reduce that footprint in infrastructure as a service with a mix of the two solutions, PaaS or directly a SaaS service usage. Now, there are a lot of consideration on all this strategy from a cost perspective, business target, and you need to see also the budget and what is your real case study here. But these one are the 2 typical kind of situation that you can find. There is a third one that is way more actual right now with all adoption of industrial IoT and Industry 4.0 that in summary means enhance the capability of a manufacturing site having computational power somewhere else that analyze all manufacturing data. By that I mean, for example, you have 2-3 production sites, you upload the data to a data lake, and some action are performed to analyze and give the reporting on the production across all, and that is where the industry is going, There are a lot of conversation on is the Purdue model ready for that type of DMZ and continuous connectivity? How is the isolation of those layers, considering that we see already some gaps in the previous design, but we see at the same time also PLC vendors trying to push in this direction of the cloud. They move, for example, the typical switch that was protecting from ransomware, that was a physical switch from the various mode to run the PLC, to something that is software, is API oriented. So you see practically how this conversation is going. Now it's really important that you define what you need, and now let's dive into that. But keep in mind that I'm not proposing a solution. It's not vendor oriented. Like all my material, you can go through all YouTube channel, you see that I never mention or I want to push to a vendor. I just pick some example in terms of design. You can use a solution that are open source, there are commercial. The point is in the first company, you have a company that is focused on find one layer where everything converges from a governance perspective, where they can understand also east-west traffic and the potential lateral move. On the lateral move from an attacking perspective, there is an entire episode that I prepared with all meter attack techniques and how is important lateral move. So stay tuned because and look into your on the episode. Now on this side you see that the integration of API with all cloud service provider is supposed to be done through a GraphQL in case of Azure, for example, where you get all services in one. It's true that a proper multi-cloud journey should be coupled with a SASE or some zero trust thinking, not just on the specific cloud service provider, but in general. We will go through all layers, and I will split this presentation to be sure you stay focused on the topic that is interesting. But how this platform works, they connect, they maintain that compatibility layer with all these cloud service provider, and they maintain a layer where you can not just see and attach your incident response, but also having an understanding of what is going on across all cloud service provider services that you consume. This one is a good solution, and it's sometimes one of the best first step to a multi-cloud journey. In fact, it's not clear that you need to adapt and use one or the other one. You can have also a mix of that. Now let's look into the most complicated things. When you discuss multi-cloud, a lot of people claim that multi-cloud is automatically made across all services. Not. Most of the portability and the standard effect that is happening in cloud is around Kubernetes. There is a journey in terms of fast and function as a service, but is not yet mature like it is the Kubernetes. On the infrastructure as a service, the amount and the mix of services that you consume from a cloud service provider is too various and too specific to allow you a native portability across cloud service provider. There is also some consideration to be done in terms of now, for example, AWS is not really into multi-cloud itself. You see from the history and how they approach to the conversation when actually Azure, for example, did projects like Arc, more focus also on moving workload in a hybrid setup between on-prem and cloud, and how GCP is actually approaching that with Anthos. But this one is just one option, and in my opinion is not always the best one. You need to consider the problem that you can have and experience at the time that you need to do a disaster recovery if your entry point and everything is orchestrated only from one cloud service provider. And you need to understand how the prices are continuously changing and how a multi-cloud strategy should be also based on that, to move workload right to left through different cloud service provider without choosing the best also in terms of prices, and be independent from the cloud service provider itself. Here is where actually you can find way more on the option B, that is focus on the pipeline itself. The pipeline is a key point that you need to consider. You can't have playbook and orchestration and just think that magically will work with them all. Each service is having a configuration that are their own. There are you see how Ansible Tower works, how Terraform is sometimes confused as a full stack multi-cloud solution, but it's an infrastructure as a code. It doesn't mean that it follow you on all journey, on operating and on the operation of that service. Now, the only things that came up in terms of strategy that is solid and it's really well known is for sure Red Hat OpenShift in terms of pipeline, multi-cloud. That means that it is up to them to keep up to date with all changes across all cloud service provider and give you that key point on allowing you to do that. There are projects and fork of that also on the open source and free perspective, so don't focus only on the fact that I'm discussing about commercial products. Now let's jump on the last case that is complicated, is the IT and OT, but let's see that more from an overall global perspective. This one is a network diagram schema that is provided by Microsoft. Now, if you analyze that, you'll see that at the center of everything there is obviously an event hub Kafka transport bus, but you miss a lot of details on the edge side, what it means in terms of Purdue layers, where it's seated, how the DMZ is done. Is only one-way wire. You can answer to that already, knowing that an SSL can't be stopped, an SSL can't be deployed with a one-direction wire solution like it's common in OT. So you do understand that the complexity of this design need to be discussed in the specific and not just on the product. The product is never a solution. The product need to fit your requirements in terms of strategy. A strategy means understanding the IoT gateway where we'll have to be scalable and be always available, because there is a lot into this picture also on the availability of the OT. And the segregation, we do know how difficult is to see across the industry a standard, and all news about compromise on ransomware or whatever witness that the maturity isn't there. So pay attention to not jump on a big train about Industry 4.0, have a digital transformation from an OT perspective without thinking on the overall cloud journey that you are having. And in this picture, not everything is multi-cloud, but I would like to highlight how each PLC is leveraging some cloud services and somehow more and more and more. So you need to pay attention to what you consume, what is your OT environment, the specific of what you manufacture, and how critical is the operation. But the message that I want to give you is, if you have an IT multi-cloud, be 100% sure to align with the OT and be sure to converge in somehow on decision. Protect the subscription that is used and consumed for the OT, or by mistake have the same one, can be lethal in terms of incident response. Now I stop here. I want to remind you, you can download all these slides in my slide share. Stay focused on the next episode. This one was episode 1, just an overall picture of 3 common case studies on multi-cloud. Stay tuned for the next episode and you'll get more details. The next one will be on which component we need to analyze and need to be part of this journey. Okay? Take care. Bye bye.